Hi everyone, it's Tatiana from Tatiana's Everyday Food and welcome back to my kitchen. Today's cake recipe is a showstopper that's going to be perfect for the holiday season. Today I'm making this infamous opera cake. So this cake is made with delicate layers of almond sponge cake, and those layers are then doused with coffee syrup and frosted with a delicate coffee buttercream. And I love how everything just melts in your mouth. You have all that coffee goodness and creaminess. Now when I first started looking for recipes on how to make this cake, I ran across so many recipes, but they were all kind of complicated. So I've tried to simplify this recipe as much as I could for you guys, kind of made it my own so you guys can duplicate this cake and have a wonderful show-stopping, delicious cake for the holiday season. So let's get started. I'm going to start today with my sponge cake layer. So into my mixer bowl, I'm going to add 6 large eggs that I've brought up to room temperature. Into the eggs, I'm going to add 3/4 cup of white granulated sugar. I'm going to turn my mixer up to high speed and I'm going to whisk the eggs and sugar together until the mixture is really light and fluffy and it should be almost white in color. I've whisked my eggs and sugar mixture for about 7 minutes and now I'm going to add in 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and give that a whisk with my mixer just until the vanilla is incorporated. And now for my dry ingredients. So into a small bowl, I'm going to add 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour, 3/4 cup of almond flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'm just going to toss all that together. I'm going to be using a fine mesh strainer to sift my flour into the cake batter in small batches. And as you're folding the flour in, you want to be careful and you want to keep the eggs as light and fluffy as possible. Today I'm using 3 8-inch cake pans and I've lined the bottom of the pan with the parchment paper and I sprayed down the sides with some baking spray. So I'm just going to be using a kitchen scale to weigh out all 3 layers equally. I'm just going to use a ladle and very gently add my cake batter right in. And I have my oven preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and these sponge cake layers are going to bake really fast. So you'll want them in the oven for probably about 15 minutes, and you want the top just to set into a nice light golden color. I have my cake layers cooling, and now it's time to get started on our coffee buttercream. So into my mixer bowl, I'm going to add 4 sticks or 2 cups of butter that I've softened at room temperature. So I'm going to turn my mixer up onto high speed and I'm going to whisk the butter until it's really light and fluffy for about 5 to 7 minutes. Once your butter is whipped light and fluffy, it's time to add our sweetened condensed milk. So I'm going to pour in a little bit at a time, about 1/4 cup, and just give it a good whisk after each addition. And you want to make sure to scrape down the sides of the bowl after each addition as well. And I'm going to add in my last little bit of sweetened condensed milk. So I'm adding 1.5 cups today. For my buttercream coffee flavor, I'm going to dissolve 1 tablespoon of instant coffee granules and 1 tablespoon of water. Just give that a stir until it's completely dissolved. I'm going to pour my coffee flavor right into my buttercream, and I'm just going to whisk it for another 3 to 4 minutes until it's really light and fluffy, and then just scrape down the sides of the bowl to get all that buttercream incorporated and flavored with the coffee. And one last step before we start assembling our cake, we need to make our coffee syrup. So we're going to use the syrup to soak our cake layers with. And in my measuring cup here, I have 1 tablespoon of water. I am going to add 2 tablespoons of instant coffee granules. And just stir those around until they're dissolved. Next, I'm going to add 3/4 cup of simple syrup. So I found this in the coffee aisle next to all the regular syrup. So this is a simple vanilla flavored syrup. I'm going to add that into my measuring cup. And my final ingredient, 1/4 cup of Kahlua coffee liqueur. So if you don't want any alcohol in your cake, you can just fill it up all the way to the top with the simple vanilla syrup. I'm going to give that a stir and combine all that together. And then today I'm using a simple dispenser bottle. And this is going to help us soak those cake layers very evenly. Unscrew the top here. Pour all that into the dispenser bottle. I have my cake layers all cooled now, and before I start assembling my cake, I'm gonna take a long serrated knife and split all 3 cake layers in 2. So we're gonna have a total of 6 cake layers. So just find the middle as best as you can and very gently go around the edges along the middle. And once you have all 6 layers, it's time to assemble the cake. So I'm gonna soak each layer generously with my prepared coffee syrup. Just go around the edges and into the center. Give it a nice soaking so the cake absorbs lots of that coffee flavor. Then I'm gonna add a generous amount of my prepared buttercream. So place it into the center and then take a flat spatula and gently spread it to the edges. So these cake layers are a little bit more fragile since they're made with almond flour, but they taste so great. They have lots of that nutty flavor. Just be very careful when you're splitting the cake layers in half. And I'm gonna use my remaining frosting to frost the top and sides of the cake. You want to even off the top and the sides as much as you can with your flat spatula, because we're going to add our chocolate ganache next. Before I do that, I'm going to clean up the plate a little bit here on the sides with the wet paper towel, and I'm going to place my cake into the refrigerator for about 15 minutes so that buttercream can set up just a bit. For my chocolate ganache, I've heated 1/4 cup of heavy cream in the microwave until it's piping hot. Next, I'm going to add in 1/2 cup of dark semi-sweet chocolate chips. I'm just going to use a spoon and stir that around until that chocolate is completely melted. You should have a nice and smooth chocolate ganache. So I'm going to add a little bit of chocolate down the sides. And then pour the rest into the center of the cake. Use a spatula and just spread it evenly to the edges. And once that chocolate ganache is set up a little bit, it's time to garnish the cake. So I've cut thin strips of parchment paper. Just gonna lay it across the top there very gently. And I have some cocoa powder in a small sieve here. I'm gonna sprinkle that over the top. And then carefully lift that parchment paper up. I have a beautiful, simple design. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen, for the infamous opera cake. So I recommend placing it into the refrigerator and just letting it set for a few hours so all that goodness can come sandwiched together. And now it's time to give it a try. This cake just looks so pretty, so delicate. Can't wait to try it. This cake is so good, guys. It's one of those moments when you bite into the cake and you're like, this is what I've been missing my whole life. It just tastes phenomenal. So all those almond sponge cake layers have soaked in that coffee syrup, so they just melt into your mouth, and that buttercream is just so decadent and creamy, and I love the chocolate ganache on top as well. So if you're looking for a show-stopping decadent cake for the holiday season, this is the one for you. I guarantee you people will be asking you for the recipe and it'll be gone before the evening ends. If you do make it this holiday season, don't forget to take a picture of it and then share it with me on Instagram. Tag it with Tatiana's Everyday Food. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.